All right, just a very quick run over in the way we have done before, the David line here, and we're going to show you how it is commensurate, very, very much it parallels the Hyksos line, again adding to the weight that the Hyksos pharaohs were actually the biblical patriarchs. I don't want to take too long with this. We're going to quote a couple of articles as well. I didn't want to pull too much from Ralph Ellis's work because I've done quite a lot of that already, and I hope you're going to buy these books because they're very interesting, or at least take a good look at his work on YouTube. Again, it's thoroughly engrossing stuff. But let's have a look. So you're gonna see the kings' names, the patriarchs' names, and the pharaohs' names up in front of you now. And we have, for the biblical, it's starting with Ezron. And the historical is Eseram. Now look at what's happened here. Ram and Eses have just been flipped. And then we have Ram again, Ramesses, the 10th and the 11th, Ramesses. Amin Nabjad. I'm going to go very slowly because these are very strange words. Amin Nabjad. And then the historical Amenes Ba Nebjed. The Nebjed are the two last of what we're going to want to focus on. Neb and Nad. Nebjad. Okay, I mean, not too bad, right? Biblical Nashon, and then Amenem Neshu, Nashon Neshu, and here again biblical and historical Salmon, and then Siaman. Pretty good. I like it. Boaz, Bas. Osokon, Basosokon, Boaz, Basosokon, Obed, Amenem Opet, Obed, not bad. Jesse, Jesse, not too bad. David and Susanus again, and then I'm just gonna quickly go through these ones as well. I mean, you can see Boaz, Bas, Jesse, Yese, Siaman, Salmon, just to go through them again. Nashon, Neshu, Dab, Amin, Abdad. This is a bit of not necessarily a stretch. I mean, you got the Amen and the Amen, Nesebedjed at the end of these two names here, and of course Ramesses, Ezron, Ramesses, Ron is so it's interesting, isn't it? It looks fairly similar, and I like these. These you can work with these. It's pretty good. Now let's see what Ralph Ellis has to say, and we're going to read a paragraph, just the paragraph below. This list clearly demonstrates that there are some equivalent names in both the historical chronology of Egypt and a biblical chronology of the United Monarchy. Indeed, the two royal lines appear to mimic each other remarkably well, but there is a problem with this suggestion, because the pharaonic king's list ends up with a pharaoh called Susenes, whereas the biblical chronology results in King David. On the surface, this would appear to be no comparison to be made between these two monarchs whatsoever. The method of making progress is this in this research is not simply to compare names, but to look at these characters' attributes as well. There are two main claims to fame for King David: phrases and imagery. They have come down to us through the centuries and the millennia, and which are probably as familiar to us now as they were nearly 3,000 years ago, during the reign of this famous king. The Star of David and the City of David. Having highlighted these two unique terms, the primary goal of this investigation would seem to be self-explanatory. If a member of the Egyptian royal family can be found who is strongly associated with both a star and a city, we may well be a long way down the road to resolving the identity of the historical King David. As it happens, there was an Egyptian pharaoh of the 21st dynasty whose name in the hieroglyphic spelling encompasses both the star and the city glyphs as he was called. Listen, Pasebeka-Enuit. Pasebeka-Enuit. Okay, so the article in Old World Mysteries goes on a little bit, but we've seen the comparisons, the comparative ease with which we can look at those, the patriarchs and the Hyksos pharaohs. But let's have a little delve into this name Susenes in David and see how it might well be that you can find David from Susenes and his throne name. Let's just read another paragraph here. Okay, since true vowels are not written in Hebrew text, they have to be inserted between these consonants to produce a name like Duvad or Duat. But if the true pronunciation of these names is unknown, then this insertion of vowels is largely based upon guesswork. And if the initial vowel were deleted in this particular case, then the resulting name for King David would be either Duvat or Duat. Rectifying this error in pronunciation would mean that the real Hebrew name for King David was actually Duat, whereas the Egyptian word for this star was pronounced Juat. But since the T and the D consonants are almost interchangeable within the Egyptian alphabet, the words Juat and Duat, Duat and Juat, could be considered to be direct equivalents of each other. Only then and only now can the truth of the matter be clearly seen. The Judean king known as David Juat was most probably the Egyptian pharaoh called Susenes, Pa-Duat Ka-Enuit. Alright then, interesting, and I think what you should do if you're interested is read these two articles. They will be at the bottom of this video, but there's more, and we now need to have a look at the daughter of King David, and we'll see that there is a similarity, a very obvious one, between the daughter here of this Pharaoh Susenes. I'm going to read from the London Economic now. But if these truly were the same royal dynasty, then everything between them should be the same, and yet this is more or less what we find. King David had a daughter who was called Makar Tamar Mert Kem, while Pharaoh Susenes had a daughter who was known as Makar Matamat. You'll see the similarities there. Surprising as it may seem, there appear to be many similarities between the united monarchy of Israel and the 21st dynasty of Egypt during the 10th century BC. And if we look deeper into the history, even more connections can be seen, including remarkably similar sounding army commanders as well, and architects with the famous Hiram Abiff of Masonic law. Campaigns and events. If the truth were known, the Israelite united monarchy and the Egyptian 21st dynasty were one and the same, and so the story of the Tanakh is a history of the Lower Egyptian pharaonic line. Lower Egypt is in North Egypt. It was lower because it's lower down, where the Nile spills out into the Mediterranean. So this is, again, you will find these consistencies between these two stories here. The real one, the historical one, I keep on going over this, but the biblical one as well, and they are remarkable, really. Makar Tamar and Makar Matemat. These are three. Well, this is quite a complex name. Tamar, Makara Tamar, Makara Motemat. And both the daughters of this personage here, Susenes and David. But let's have a look at the conclusion that Ralph Ellis makes now, because this is a pretty big clincher. And please forgive me, Ralph. I have actually just asked for your permission to. We're Facebook friends, me and Ralph. We don't speak too much, but we have exchanged some words. Now this is at the end of his article in Old World Mysteries, and his books are voluminous, by the way. He really fleshes out what's happening here in extraordinary detail. I'm only giving you a tiny little sliver off the top of his work. But let's read the confirmation here. While the evidence already given may seem to provide a convincing link between King David and the Pharaoh Susenes II, the final pieces of the jigsaw that truly confirms this hypothesis are the other historical characters that this theory can also identify. Once more, the classical perception of history would suggest that the court of Pharaoh Susenes and the court of King David would have absolutely nothing in common, and once more the complete opposite of this is actually true. The first of these similarities concerns the chief army commander of King David, who is said to have been called Joab. Surprisingly enough, the chief army commander of Susenes II is called Un-Choab En-Jeb, or Joab for short. Un-Choab En-Jet, or Joab for short. Thus, surprisingly enough, the biblical and historical accounts give the same name for this army commander, a fact that serves to strengthen the links between Susenes and King David. Then there is a strange case of the chief architect of this era. The Bible indicates that the chief architect of King David and King Solomon, by the way, was also called Hiram Abith, or Hiram Abi, who is the same individual as revered in the Masonic world as Hiram Abith. Meanwhile, if we search through the historical record, it can be seen that the chief architect of the Pharaoh Susenes II was called Hiram Abith. Again, this is 3,000-year-old names, by the way, and they come down to us like this. I think it's pretty compelling, guys. Again, this investigation has discovered the same name for the same individual in two completely separate royal dynasties. It is apparent that the historical and biblical records precisely agree on a number of names, titles, and positions within the two royal dynasties of the 10th century BC, and all of these characters were known to have lived just one generation before the Pharaoh Seshong the First. This is going to be the King Solomon. The biblical Shishak came to the throne. Perhaps it is worth listing these individuals for clarity. Well, I'm just gonna. This is obviously already in front of you. I'm just gonna let you read that if you want to. I'm gonna call it quits here, but I'm probably gonna do a nice, rounded, sensible, and well articulated conclusion at the end of this, and compel you, please, if you're interested, to go and dig a little deeper and take a real investigation into this, because you will find, as I did, that there's so much evidence that this is the case, that any detractors that might want to come at us, as they have for Ralph Ellis, are not going to have a very good time. Alright, well, thank you very much. Have a nice day, enjoy yourselves. And remember, the Hyksos were the biblical patriarchs.